and welcome back. This is Jenny from Polly's Paper Studio. Today we'll be creating this vintage inspired gatefold Easter greeting card using an image from Polly's very own shop. And at the end of the video I will be introducing you to the newest member of the Polly's Paper Studio crew, so make sure you watch till the end, and in the meantime let's make this together. I want my finished card size to be 6.5 by 5 inches, so I've cut my cardstock, this is 65-pound weight cardstock, to be 6.5 by 10, and then I'm going to come in and add my score lines here at 2.5 and then at 7.5. So that will leave my gatefold right in the center. It's much easier to finish the inside now before we add any of the bulky layers on top. So I'll just add this very sweet polka dot with the chartreuse matting. Later I'll come back in and add a portion for a sentiment to be added. So I'm going to begin decorating the front now, and what I'll do is I'll work upside down because it's easier for me to get things lined up if they're closer to me. So I've got my first sheet of cardstock and I'm just leaving that standard border that I do of the white showing, and then I'll bring in more of that polka dot for the top. So I've cut, so this will run the full length of the front, leaving that green matting, and then the beautiful green check will be just on the top, and I can line that right up to the polka dot, and that will leave me the border of the green cardstock. And I've got another one here for this side as well. Now I'll flip it over and work in the right orientation. I want that purple to be on the bottom. I've got a piece of 110-pound cardstock that I've cut to the size of the focal image that I want to use. This is the back. What I did was I added that cardstock again and then a complementary pattern. I've added my adhesive only to this side, so when I flip it over I won't accidentally seal up this card, and it only goes about halfway over, so that will be a nice large area for my focal image. I'm just lining it up there with the bottom of that green, and you can see how that will be a nice finished edge when it's open. Before I add any other paper layers, it's a good time to bring in my trim. This is a beautiful stitched satin ribbon from Really Reasonable Ribbon. I think it coordinates perfectly. If you're interested in checking that out, I'll drop a link in the description so you can see it. Just leaving enough to tie a good generous size bow, and then I will sandwich that in between the layers here. So here's that green cardstock matting again, and now we've trapped that ribbon in between the layers. Might as well cut that too before we move on so it won't be in the way. Here's a beautiful die cut with a scalloped edge, and this is going to be used in place of my regular doily. And I'll tap it with another layer of the green cardstock again, and this time I put foam on so that I can begin to build some dimension. That goes right in the middle. I did measure this to fit right in between each of the large scallops. Then I'll tap it with that wood grain, so that's just going to be a non-contrasting pattern. That way it won't compete with the other busy patterns on the front of the card. Here's my image. So this was part of the Vintage Rabbit Easter tag set from our own shop. What I did was open the file in Word, and then I cropped into that image until I got the tag that I wanted to use. Then I clicked the corner and drug it in so that it would stay perfectly scaled, but I could print it smaller than the original file had it. That way it will fit very nicely on the top here of my card focal area. I added some foam spacers to the back so that I can build up the depth again and added a small metal eyelet, put some twine through there, and just captured it on the back so that it would be a nice loopy detail on top. This will go right in the center. I've also added some stickle details to this beautiful purpley and green wreath around that rabbit so that it would be a little bit sparkly. I've got a flower arrangement made here, and this has flowers from 49 and Market, and this one is from Little Birdie Crafts. So I just drew my inspiration from the colors on that wreath around the bunny, and then I've tucked in a couple of die cut leaves and some loopy twine bows. Now when you're doing a gatefold card, you don't have to keep the embellishments only on the top portion. You can work this whole area around here so that you still can have a nice large flower cluster and not worry that it's going to be in the way when you open your card. So I'll just add this here with a little bit of hot glue. You can see how that still opens perfectly even though it has a large flower cluster on the side. I've also brought in a couple of little charms here, and I've tied them already so that they would fall at the length that I wanted them to, and I'm just going to attach them right here on the very top because I don't want them to interfere with the bow that I'll tie. Just set those strings into that glue and clip off the excess. Then I'll tap those cut ends with this beautiful vintage button. There's a few additional buttons for the bottom. So that is all for our vintage Easter gatefold card. Now, one thing I want to share before I go is this little sweet thing. This was a surprise gifty from the Tech Hubby, and it just showed up as a surprise, thoughtful gift. I think those are always the nicest to receive. We watched The Mandalorian multiple times now, and I am just in love with this sweet little face. So thank you, Tech Hubby, for indulging my closet nerdiness and gifting me a special little surprise. Now, if you are interested in this vintage rabbit tag, I'll leave a link in the description below, as well as links for all our social media sites. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment. If you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.